online. Otherwise, we just have to.
Okay, we'll now turn to our panel from the floor. Ms. Antonette Ncube, who is a youth climate activist and environmental preservation. If you could please take the floor for about 2 minutes, and then we look forward to hearing from you more in the question and answer. Thank you, Antonette.
Thank you to our moderator. Hello, everyone. My name is Antonette Ncube. I'm from Botswana. I'm an agronomist, aspiring farmer, an environmentalist, and youth activist. And today I have the privilege to speak on how we can build a peaceful and sustainable climate resilient Africa through women leadership and activism. 2 minutes is quite tight, but I will try to keep to time, moderator. I had a few points that I really wanted to share, but sure. Just to give you a picture of the impact of climate change on us as farmers on the ground, especially to women, because I work with women on a daily basis. So when there is climate change, what would happen to smallholder farmers somewhere in the rural communities of Africa, it would mean that there's pest migration. So for women that are trying to produce food for the country, as we've been speaking about food security, celebrating Malawi, what it essentially means is that if there's a farmer on the ground and climate change is happening, we're going to be experiencing pest migration, for instance, your locusts that are going to affect crop production. And because women don't have funding, sufficient funding, it would then mean that those women on the ground have to spend more money trying to mitigate the pest infestation. And what would that mean for the whole country is that now we're going to have low yields of crops or low yields of food. And as a result, the entire nation, if not the continent, will be insecure when it comes to food production. So that is just a little of a picture of what happens on the ground when we're talking about the impacts of climate change on smallholder farmers as women. And some of these women are widows. Some of these women are the ones that are heading households, trying to take kids to school, trying to provide for their communities. So that is the picture that really, really happens on the ground. And to remind you again, most of these women don't have enough funding from the government to support crop production or food production in the villages. So how can we now then, support these women? One of the points that I had stated here is that perhaps we need to have a balance between being too consultative and being radical about the transformation on the ground. Because as Africans, most of the time we come together, we want to go to community meetings, we want to talk about it and make sure that everybody's on board. And then when it comes to implementing on the ground, it becomes a different story. So we have to find the middle ground of when do we consult and when do we become radical about implementing the change that we want to see, so that the women that are experiencing the impacts of climate change on the ground are actually benefiting from all the services that they could get from their governments. And also we need to be very intentional about what exactly is support, because support can be so vague. Sometimes people can say, I support you, and stand on the sidelines. But what exactly is support? So we need to be very specific and intentional about defining what is support. And I believe that support as leaders, we need to break the walls of what exactly is leadership. In order to best serve the people in the ground, you need to be part of the people. You need to be part of the problem. So instead of having leadership being surrounded by so many structures that make it so hard for women to access services and even a dialogue such as this, I believe this is a very unprecedented moment where you have a young farmer from the rural farms of Botswana coming to speak to women leaders. So we need more of this dialogue, more of these conversations. We need to get out of these rooms and have a walk in the farms, in the villages, with the people, so that we see it on the ground. Once you experience the problems yourselves, because I believe we've all been there, we know the struggles of fetching water very far away as women. We know the struggles of providing food for the table as African women. But as we grow and develop, sometimes we disconnect ourselves from the very same people that we are trying to serve. And we are those people in the room today. So we need to decentralize and localize support and be part of the people so that we see the problems on the ground. One key thing that I also want to touch is that education is important. I am thinking about the school curriculum in my country just to try to see if there's any education to young girls, young women in schools, basically, that we are educating the young ones about climate governance, climate change. What does it mean to sustainably farm and have food systems that are very sustainable for the country? So from a very young age, we already don't have those systems put in place. So perhaps it is time to reconsider how we approach, informing and raising awareness in our communities and integrate climate governance or issues of climate change into the school curriculum. And perhaps it is time to have young people like us at the forefront, because the question is, how do we support? How do we empower? The truth is, young people and women are already on the ground and are already leading climate change transformation and resilience. They have been advocating, they have been speaking. Now the question is, do the people who have the seat at the table not have ears enough to act on what has already been said? So perhaps we need to reevaluate that, right? And as I'm trying to close and just wind up my points here, one other thing that I would like you to appreciate is to have a look around. I've been looking around the room. I've been seeing women with cameras trying to capture the media, I've been looking behind the rooms and I saw women supporting with IT. There's one over there at the corner. So if you're asking yourself, how do we support women? How do we empower women? These are the very same women that need to be mainstreamed. Their work needs to be highlighted more. We are talking about women journalists. We have young people in our countries that blog about climate change, the impacts of climate change, young women and girls that are documenting and shooting documentaries that are about climate change. Why are we not mainstreaming their work? Because they are already on the ground. We have young people who are influencing on social media about climate change and its impacts in Africa. Those are the very same young people that their work needs to be mainstreamed. But of course, we know as Africans, we frown upon the arts and being creative because we want kids that will be doctors, crop scientists like myself. But we have people in this room who did IT, who did media studies, that their work needs to be mainstreamed. So perhaps that's something that we could pack home to rethink about and start implementing on the ground. And with those very few minutes, moderator, respecting the time, I'll just say thank you.
I don't think any of us could have cut you off, Antonette. That was fantastic. Thank you so much for those remarks and getting all of us thinking about what is support, what is leadership, and how we can continue to align on these issues.